Okay, today I'm going to have a quick look at this. This is a Bsa Superstar. Now, this was Bsa's underlever rifle that sort of was intended to sort of supersede the air sporters, even though they did end up running the air sporter alongside of it. They made two versions of this, Mark 1 and Mark 2, and this is a Mark 1. The Mark 2 version was slightly different in that it had a sort of sleeved part on the end of the barrel where you could fit a moderator to it. But apart from that, there wasn't a great deal of difference between the two versions. They also did this in a carbine. And then BSA brought out a slightly different version, which was almost the same, but with a magazine, and that was called Gold Star. And that was a magazine-fed underlever. So let's have a look at this one then. This is the Superstar. So this is an early one. This is a Mark 1, an early one, and it's a full-size one. And it's also rather rare because this is in .25 caliber. BSA made this in the usual 177 and 22, but they also made a 25 version, which is what this is. And they're quite scarce, the .25 cal ones. So standard underlever action. Little button on the front to press in to release the lever. And it's a really quite a long underlever, which makes cocking very, very easy. It's a really solid lockup, so you could put slings on these, and a lot of people did, because it's a fairly bulky rifle, weighs about 8 odd pounds, and when fitted with a scope, you're looking at more like nearer getting on for 9 probably. Very solidly made, really nicely blued, no plastic on it, and just 1 or 2 alloy components. It's got the an alloy scope rail put on the top, and this was their anti-recoil scope rail, because underneath this, where it joins the cylinder, is a little rubber buffer that absorbs the recoil. That was the idea behind it anyway. And in all fairness, it seemed to work fairly well. Though having said that, this is such a smooth shooting rifle, and with the weight of it, that the recoil's pretty minimal anyway. It's got a safety catch, non-automatic, so back for safe, forward for fire, and it's in quite a good place, right by where your thumb is, so it's quite useful. And the other interesting thing with this is that BSA moved away from the tap loading on these and went to this RB2, which is a rotary breech, and it's was also used on some of the air sporters, and it's a really, really clever idea. Why this never caught on more, I do not know, because it's really good, far better than a tap, and much safer than the sliding breech mechanisms that you find on things like the TX200, the Pro Sport and the Viraux, where you need a ratchet to make them safe, an anti-bear trap ratchet, and makes them rather noisy. I'll show you how this works in more detail after, but suffice to say that there's no chance of getting your fingers caught in this at all. Having said that, it only works, you can only open the breech once you've cocked the rifle or moved the underlever down, because the actual piston head mechanism presses hard against the breech. So until you've cocked it, this is under tension, and you can't open it. And a lot of the time, people that didn't understand these rifles try to force these open with this little lever here that slides it across, and if you really swing off it or think it's jammed and bang it, you can snap those off. But once you've cocked the rifle, it opens really easily, as it is designed to. So it had BSA's sort of 2-stage trigger of the period, fitted to most of the BSA rifles, the Challenger, and all the other sort of top-end BSA air rifles at the time. 2-stage, pretty good. It's all right. It's quite a good trigger. It's not as good as the record unit fits the Viraux, but it's nonetheless a good trigger. especially by the standards of the BSA triggers that had gone before it, that were not particularly good. So yeah, it's good two-stage trigger. Beech stock, stained to look like walnut. Cut checkering, not pressed. They went away from the rather horrible press checkering that was on the early Air Sporter S's and Mercury S's, and went to this sort of actual cut checkering. Nice, almost via out 35E type Famewood Bowie raised cheek piece. Very nice contours on it, and the standard BSA at the time ventilated recoil pad. It had a really nice palm swell on this rifle. Very, very nice. It's a nice stock actually. Stock's really, the ergonomics of the stock are very, very good. Pretty deep forend, tapers in, and pretty wide at the bottom. So a nice stock all in all. Chemically blued, really quite nice in all fairness. And these rifles came out in about the late 80s, early 90s, and ran to about 2000 and odd. So this particular rifle being the Mark 1, this is an early one, so this is probably getting on for 30 years old. This was probably made in the early 90s. So yeah, so this is probably getting on for 30 years old now. And the surprising thing with it is that they shoot remarkably sweetly. When you think that there was, you know, you get these modern ones like where they're always going on about like the Walthers, with all the plastic shims and the anti-rotation technology and all that lot. I've owned one of those, an LGV, and a very nice rifle it was too. And I've owned a brand new TX 2000. And both very sweet shooting guns. But when you think that this came out in 1990, this thing is probably sweeter shooting than either of those rifles. There's remarkably little recoil and incredibly smooth. No twang, no boing, nothing. It's a very, very smooth shooting air rifle. Full power, right up to the legal limit. Like I say, this is a 2.5 cal one. So I'll just show you that rotating breech in slightly more detail. Right, so that's the breech, and you see it's got like a little ski ramp section. So the pellet slides down this little ramp and you push it into the breech, and even if the gun goes off, there's no way you can trap your fingers in here at all because this doesn't move. So once the pellet's in and you've thumbed it into the breech, that just closes. Really, really efficient. Very safe, very efficient. This rifle's fitted with a period Optima scope, 3-9x40 wide angle. Again, a late 80s, early 90s scope. These rifles were fitted with the standard BSA open sights, but it was fitted to a raising ramp, and it had the standard foresight that I've taken off. So I'll just put a shot through this to show you what it's like. So there we go. Very nice, very powerful. 0.25 cal Bsa Supersport. Really, really nice rifle.